do the day-to-day inventory. So it's from the drop-down list from the top, and we'll start off with counting inventory.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
No problem, Dwayne. So we're going to go into our accounting inventory screen. When we bring up this screen, there's a couple things we need to make a mention of. The first thing is, before we do anything, we need to give it a count date. Our count date is the last day of sales that this inventory is being reflected on. I can't tell the staff it's yesterday's date, because if I was counting inventory at Sunday night before I went home, yesterday's date would have been Saturday, and that wouldn't be correct. So the correct statement is always the last day of sales that my inventory is being reflected on is my count date. So if I came in here today, Friday morning, and I'm counting inventory, my count date would be Thursday, because that's the last day of sales I have that this inventory is being reflected on. Now, obviously, I don't want to print a list that looks just like this, because it's automatically going to default by alphabetical, and it's going to be a big mess. I'm going from a 4-pack carrier to apple juice to aprons to bacon. It's all over the place. So what I actually want to do is sort it by the department. So I'm going to click on this button here, and it's going to sort everything by department. So I have here bottle pop, can pop. Now all my desserts are together. All my finger sauces are together. And then I'm going to want to hit my print button, because I need to have a blank count sheet to print off. Now, when I do this blank count sheet, it's going to show me, and you can see that it's 6 pages. It used to be 8. We did our best to get it down to 6 pages. There's a lot of things on this list. And as I go through here, I'm going to see case unit, stock unit, individual units. This is just a terminology that's used in the system. How does it relate to Mary Brown's is listed with inside the cells. So if I used honey mustard as an example, I can see that I have a case. My stock unit, we call it a tray for the Mary Brown system, and it shows me that there's 5 trays per case. And my individual unit, we use the word each, and in this case, there's 20 each per tray. Whether I count this product by the case, tray, or each is up to the store. Garbage in, garbage out, everybody. If I decide to say I have 0.5 of a case of honey mustard, then obviously I'm not exact. So I'm not going to get the exact information out. There are certain products that we're not going to want to count individually. I'm not going to have a staff member count every single wax liner in the box. I will have Darren count every single pickle, though. And that's the kind of the garbage in, garbage out. So there are certain things we're going to go through, and we're going to, not count by the case. And it doesn't matter. You can use all 3 columns. You could say you have 2 cases, 2 trays, and 5 each. It's not one or the other. It's whatever you want to count by. The idea here is that I would print this off, and I would go count it. Now, some stores prefer to separate their count sheets and print a count sheet just for my food products, an account sheet just for my store supplies, and a count sheet just for my packaging. Now, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to keep that for a little bit of an advanced session, though. I just want to keep this simple, where I print one report of 6 pages. Whether I hand certain pages to staff and say, you guys go count the packaging and you count the food and beverage, I've still dealt with one report. When I come back,
Jared?
Yes, go ahead, Denise. Or Nikita, sorry.
Yeah, back to what you were just into. There's like a case and then tray and an individual. So if one person decides that they're going to count, like you said, a 0.5 and then skip the tray part, do they have to do that every single time?
It makes no difference. It's just that count is going to be entered into the way you did that count. It doesn't have to be consistent all the time, but you have to understand that it's kind of from week to week, it will never be exact. You got one guy counting it exactly, and you got the next guy counting it by the case. So you're never going to get an exact for that product. Now, that might be fine based on that product. It depends on what the store wants, right? It's kind of one of those things. From a training purpose, from a BDC, from head office to a store, I would always recommend to be as exact as possible, except when you get into things like wrap liners and boxes and stuff like that. Those things we're going to count by 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. You're never going to have someone count all that. But if I'm talking about sauces like the finger sauces, there's no reason we can't be exact. I shouldn't need to go and say 0.5 of a case. I should be able to count 1 case, 2 trays, and 5 each. It doesn't take that much time to do that.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Sarah, can I just ask you one question? I noticed I'm probably skipping ahead, but even this inventory system alone, just what we've done so far, I see extreme value into this type of a presentation for some of our corporate store managers, especially given the amount of new people and new stores and that sort of thing that we have on board right now. And I know we're recording this for different things, but I see value in even just this inventory piece alone to do a short call with some of these guys down the road, because I think there would be great value in that.
Absolutely, and I don't want to get too much off topic for the recording, but we used to, all new franchisees and all new managers come through Technique Office for this training, and I understand this has been changed over and gone to Freshwater. So as long as that format still kept the same, that 1 day or 2 days out of their training in Freshwater, they should be pulled aside and trained on this without being in the store being distracted. When you're in a store, you're not getting the same kind of training as a classroom style training. So if that is the move, and that it's the move to go to Freshwater for all training, the same type of training program should still be provided to the franchisee or new manager. And you'll find that by doing that, everyone will still be learning everything before they even get to their store.
Perfect, and we can talk more offline about that after.
Absolutely. Okay, so back to our accounting inventory screen. So when I select department again and I have it sorted, this list is going to be identical to what was printed. So we want to literally enter in that information into my fields, case, stocked, and individual. Now, you're going to see that there's already information here, and you're going to say, why is there information already here? Why does it say 117 for bottles, and why does it have 1 case and 4 brownies? These numbers are the theoretical numbers. These numbers are what the system thinks you have on hand right now at this moment in time. So we need to either accept those numbers or change those numbers. So all I recommend doing is simply using your arrow button on your keypad. You're just going to go up and down and enter in the numbers, whatever you have. You can move to the right, you can move to the left. You don't even need to use your mouse. This is one of the changes we made, I think it was a year ago, to make it much faster to enter the inventory in. But the point is here is if I don't change this 117 to something else, if I don't say, no, it's 112, and I just leave it, I'm accepting that what was there is what I have. So I must change it or put a 0. So when I get into these big numbers down here for batter dip, I'm not counting batter dip by the individual. I need to put a 0 there. I'm not counting it by that, but I might be counting it by the bag. I might be counting it by the case. But the individual, I'm putting a 0 in. I'm not going to agree that I have -1 slice of bacon. I need to put a 0 in. Otherwise, I'm agreeing with the system before I hit my process button. I'm simply going to go and do that for my entire list and enter my inventory in. Now, there are times where I might get a phone call. I might have to step away. So I'm simply going to hit save and hold so I don't lose any of the information I entered in, and I can go and do whatever I need to deal with, and then I can come back into the system by simply dropping down from the inventory screen, going back to my count inventory screen. It will remember everything I've got, the count date and the entries. All I need to do is hit my sort button again because it will always sort by alphabetical, and it's exactly where I left off. The idea here is that Mary Brown's has set a policy for stores to do the inventory counts for Sunday ending inventory entered into the system on Monday before you open at 11 a.m. We have to understand that if I am not able to enter this into the system before I open on Monday, I need to tell the system to hold my depletion so that I can enter it in after lunch maybe. Because if I don't pause my depletion, I'm going to be entering in the wrong inventory, let's say at 2 or 3 o'clock by the time I am able to enter my inventory. So to pause my depletion, I have to go to the POS stations. If I have 1 station, I only have to do it on 1 time, but if I have 4 stations, I have to do it on each POS station. If the POS station looks like this, I'm simply going to go to Manager Functions and minimize the software. I need to get into the Windows environment, and I'm going to go into my system tray where I have all the icons and my elements of my system, my Windows, and I'm going to see this yellow filing cabinet. This yellow filing cabinet is the POS transaction server that looks after all my depletion of inventory. I'm simply going to double click it and hit pause the server. And all this is going to do now is everything I am about to sell on this computer, it's going to remember in its memory so it doesn't deplete from my inventory. So I have to do this on each station. Then after lunch, I come back to the system, I finish entering in everything I have, I've entered in all my inventory, and I hit now save and process. This will now process my inventory. And once it's done processing, I'll go back to each station and start the server of my inventory. And it will now deplete what I have sold from the time I paused it from the counts that I've entered in, which really were my counts before I opened up on Monday morning.
And I think a good addition to add to this as well, Jared, is if a store is trying to look at their pieces sales by day report, if their server is paused, it's not going to give them any information until we've released the server.
Absolutely correct, because the pieces sales by day report is an inventory report. So yes, if my inventory is paused, no inventory is being tracked, my pieces day report will show nothing. Good point. Okay. Any questions on counting inventory? Okay.